There are suppers that fed these mountains for 200 years that you will not find in a single restaurant, a single cookbook, or a single kitchen under the age of 60. Not because they weren't good. Some of them were the finest, most resourceful food this country ever put on a table. They were forgotten for one reason. The people who knew them by heart were never once asked to write them down. If you think mountain folks ate the same plain supper every night of their lives, you have never sat at a real Appalachian table. My name is Virgil Boone, 7th generation on this ridge in the Appalachian Mountains of eastern Kentucky, and my grandfather Emery kept a leather journal of every one of these suppers, copied down before they could die with him. Tonight I'm setting that table for you. Here's the truth most folks never learned. These mountain families turned a bare cellar, a hog, and a patch of woods into food so clever that the fancy restaurants are only now, 100 years late, charging $15 a plate to serve it back to you. They didn't cook poor. They cook smarter than we do. I'm counting down 25 forgotten Appalachian suppers that deserve to be remembered. Mark 3 before we start. Number 15. They fermented it in a crock in the cellar, and it tasted like nothing you've ever had. Number 6 turned a hog's own stomach into the richest supper on the mountain. And number 4, city folks turned their nose up at it, and they were fools too. None of these deserve to be forgotten. So let's set them back on the table, and you tell me at the end which one you'll cook first. Number 25, fried corn. This wasn't corn on the cob. In the milky peak of August, a woman cut the kernels off the ear and scraped the cob with the back of the knife for every drop of that sweet, starchy milk, then fried it slow in bacon grease and butter, both, till the sugars caramelized into golden bits on the bottom of the skillet, creamy and crisp at the same time, sweet and smoky. The canned creamed corn at the store is a pale, sad ghost of it. Number 24, cornbread and buttermilk. Sounds like poverty until you've had it. You crumble hot skillet cornbread, the kind baked crackling black on the bottom in a screaming iron pan, into a tall glass and pour cold buttermilk over till it swims, then eat it with a spoon. Cool and warm at once, sweet and tangy, filling without sitting heavy. Mountain families ate it before bed after a hard day when nothing else sounded right. It never needed a recipe or a name. Number 23, chow chow. Every fall, the mountain kitchen turned into a pickling factory, and this end of garden relish was the crown of the shelf. Green tomatoes, cabbage, onions, and peppers chopped fine and packed in a vinegar brine with mustard seed and turmeric, sharp and sweet and mustardy all at once. A spoon of it could wake up the deadest winter plate of beans. Every family swore theirs was best. Number 22, creasy greens. Long before anybody charged $12 for a handful of anything green, mountain children waded the cold creek banks in February for these wild cress, peppery little leaves like watercress with a spicy streak. Boiled quick with a bit of fat back, a splash of vinegar, salt, and that was it. After a winter of heavy, fatty food, that first mess of creasy greens in the spring was near about a holiday, proof the winter was finally dying. Number 21, killed lettuce, kilt lettuce, and the name fit the doing of it. The first tender spring lettuce got torn into a bowl, and then you killed it. Hot bacon grease poured straight over, popping and smoking, wilting the leaves the instant it hit. A splash of cider vinegar in the grease made a sharp, sizzling dressing, and crumbled bacon and green onion finished it. Half salad, half cooked green, smoky and tangy, eaten warm before the grease cooled. Number 20, fried green tomatoes. When the first frost threatened in September and the vines were still full of hard green fruit, nothing got wasted. Thick slices dipped in buttermilk, dredged in seasoned cornmeal, and fried in bacon grease till each side crusted up golden. Crunchy outside, firm and tart inside. Loggers and miners carried them cold in the lunch pail, where that sharp bite cut through a morning of biscuits and fatback. Number 19, greasy beans. The name's no compliment till you taste them. Fresh green beans packed raw into jars with nothing but salt and water. No canner and no boiling bath. Just salt doing its old work while they fermented slow in the cellar for months, turning olive and complex and near pickled. Come deep winter, you drained a jar and cooked them for hours with fatback, till they went silky and army green soft, and the pot liquor turned smoky and rich. Number 18, crackling bread. When a family rendered lard from hog fat, what was left were cracklings. crisp golden nuggets of fried skin and fat, the best crackling you ever had. A smart cook stirred a handful into her cornbread batter before it hit the screaming iron skillet, and as it baked, they melted their pork fat down through the bread. Crisp, burnt crust, tender, fatty middle, studded with chewy, salty bits. Bacon cornbread only wishes. First pattern break. Notice something. Near every one of these suppers came off a hog killed in November or a garden put up in September. And nothing, not the fat, not the head, not the green tomato off a killed vine, was ever wasted. That wasn't poverty, friend. That was a kind of genius the modern kitchen forgot. Keep it in mind on the way down. Number 17, country ham and red-eye gravy. A salt-cured, hickory-smoked ham hung in the smokehouse from fall to spring till the flavor turned so deep it could make you weep. Thick slices fried in the iron skillet till the edges crisped like meat candy. And then the trick. Black coffee poured right into the hot drippings, sizzling up all the salty caramelized bits into a thin, dark gravy. That's your red eye, poured over the ham and a biscuit. Working man's fuel for a 10-hour day. Number 16, squirrel gravy over biscuits. When a man came home with a mess of squirrels, his wife floured and fried the pieces golden, then built a gravy right in the drippings. Flour whisked into a roux, milk stirred in slow and thick, studded with the crispy bits. It tasted nutty because the squirrels lived on nuts, savory and rich, over a split biscuit with the fried meat on top. That was Sunday breakfast that fed 8 people for pennies. Number 15, sour corn. I told you it'd taste like nothing you've had. Scots-Irish settlers with no canning gear packed fresh milky corn tight into a stone crock, covered it with boiling water, weighted it under a plate, and let it sit cool in the cellar 3 or 4 weeks while the wild bacteria worked. It came out sour and funky, almost cheese-like, somewhere between sourdough and sauerkraut. Come January, you fried it in bacon grease, and that tang cut the winter richness like a knife. Number 14, ramps and eggs. When April finally thawed the forest floor, folks hunted ramps like their lives hung on it. And after a winter of salt pork and dried beans, near about they did. These wild leeks were the first fresh green thing in 6 months, sharp as garlic and onion in a fight. Chopped and scrambled into eggs and bacon fat, that funk mellowed near buttery. Your breath reeked for 3 days, but so did everyone's, so nobody minded. Number 13, poke salad, the supper that took real knowing to eat. Pokeweed came up wild everywhere in April, and it will make you sick as a dog done wrong. Here's the part you don't skip. You take only the youngest shoots before they turn purple, and you boil them 3 separate times, throwing the water out each time to carry off the poison. Then, and only then, fried in bacon grease with a scrambled egg, it was a mountain delicacy. Poor folks' food that took rich knowledge. Number 12, Cushaw squash. While the rest of the country lost its mind over pumpkins, mountain families grew these giant striped crooknecks, 20 pounds apiece, that stored all winter in the cellar without rotting. The flesh was denser and sweeter than any pumpkin, closer to sweet potato, and mashed with butter and cinnamon it made a pie that put pumpkin to shame. They fried it, canned it, and traded the seeds between neighbors like currency. Number 11, persimmon pudding. After the first hard frost sweetened the little wild persimmons, families gathered them by the bushel and pushed the pulp through a cloth. That pulp went into a pudding more like spoon bread, with buttermilk, eggs, sugar, cinnamon, and nutmeg. Baked slow till the top went dark and near burnt, and the middle stayed dense and custardy. It tasted like autumn itself, sweet and tannic and wild. Served warm with fresh cream, that was mountain luxury. Number 10, vinegar pie. When the pantry was bare but you still wanted a sweet on the table, this was the miracle. No fruit, no chocolate, nothing but flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and a spoon of cider vinegar cooked into a custard that set up firm and silky. That vinegar cut the sweet into something bright and near lemony, and it baked up tasting far better than it had any right to. Folks served it with pride, because making something fine out of nothing was a badge of honor. Number 9, shoofly pie. This molasses pie came down from the Pennsylvania Dutch and stuck in these hills because it used what a family always had: molasses, flour, and sugar. Nothing that could spoil. A dark, sticky, intensely sweet molasses custard on the bottom, a crumbly butterscotch streusel on top, half cake and half pie. Bold, unapologetic, iron-rich sweetness that could fuel a day of labor and kept for days on the counter. Second pattern break. Here's where the faint of heart usually leave, and I'd ask you to stay, because the next few are the ones that separate a real mountain table from a tourist idea of one. This is where nothing, and I mean nothing, off that hog went to waste. Ride with me. Number 8, dried apple stack cake. This was a wedding cake for people with no money for one, and it got better with age. Thin, hard, molasses-sweet rounds baked like cookies, stacked 5 or 6 high with a thick paste of dried apples cooked down jammy between every layer. Left a week, the apple moisture soaked down and softened the whole thing near to fudge. At a mountain wedding, each neighbor brought a layer, so the cake was the whole community stacked up on one plate. Number 7, souse meat. After a November hog killing, when the good cuts were claimed, what was left was the head, the feet, and the tongue, parts most folks today wouldn't touch. All of it went in a pot with vinegar, salt, and pickling spice, and boiled for hours till the meat fell off and the broth turned to gelatin. Chopped fine and set in loaf pans overnight, it's sliced cold like a jellied, sharp, vinegary terrin. The fancy name is head cheese. The mountain original is souse. Number 6, hog maw. The stuffed pig stomach I promised you. The stomach got scrubbed clean with salt and vinegar till it gleamed, then packed tight with ground pork, sausage, diced potatoes, onions and cabbage, sewn shut with butcher's twine, and boiled for hours till it turned tender. Sliced, each piece showed the stuffing steamed in its own juices, and the stomach itself ate like the richest, porkiest thing you can imagine. Nose to tail, eating 100 years before anybody made it a slogan. Number 5, chitlins. Cleaning hog intestines was a 2-day job with a smell that could clear a house, and I'll not pretty it up, but turned inside out, scraped, soaked in vinegar water with the water changed again and again, then boiled tender with onion, garlic, and hot pepper. They became a real delicacy, chewy and deep and complex. It took patience and knowing, and it honored an animal that gave everything it had. Number 4, groundhog. And the city folks who turned their nose up were fools. Come February, the groundhog was fat off a winter's stored feed, the original grass-fed meat. You parboiled it with baking soda to draw the gamey fat, changed the water twice, then roasted it slow in a Dutch oven with potatoes, carrots, and whatever roots held in the cellar. The meat went dark and rich, somewhere between pork and dark meat chicken, but wilder, and it made every root in the pot taste like the woods. Number 3, pepperoni rolls. In 1927, an Italian immigrant named Giuseppe Argiro opened a bakery in Fairmont, West Virginia, deep in coal country, and solved a miner's problem. He rolled soft bread dough around a stick of pepperoni and baked it, and the pepperoni's own oil and salt kept it good through a 12-hour shift with no icebox. Sealed against the coal dust, a miner bit into that spicy, greasy, salty punch 1,000 feet down, and it made black coffee taste like luxury. West Virginia is proud of it to this day. Number 2, cold biscuits and sorghum. Nothing got thrown out, so last night's hard lard biscuits became today's dinner. A timberman split a cold biscuit and drizzled dark sorghum molasses over both halves. That deep, earthy sweetness, with a mineral tang no white sugar ever had, soaking down into the dense bread. He ate it standing up, syrup dripping on his boots, before another day of felling trees by hand. Number 1, soup, beans, and cornbread. If one supper defined these mountains, it was this. Dried pintos picked over by lamplight, soaked overnight, then hung over the fire 6 or 8 hours with a ham hock till they broke down into their own creamy soup, sopped up with a wedge of skillet cornbread. A family of 8 ate for days off one pot. But number 1 was never really the beans. It was a people who could feed themselves with dignity off almost nothing and call it not poverty, but supper. That is exactly why every one of these deserves to be remembered. So here's what I'm asking. Don't let them die on your watch. Pick one, cook it this week, and put a forgotten Appalachian supper back on a table where it belongs. Tell me down below which one you're cooking first and which supper your own grandmother made that I didn't name tonight. The one that gets the most comments is the one I do in full next. These plates fed generations of self-reliant people who knew more about real cooking than most of us ever will. Somebody just didn't get the chance to pass them down to you. Now they're yours again. Keep the old ways. They kept us.